Ladies and gentlemen, hello from the MLG studios here in New York City, and welcome back to the Winter Season Showdowns, where pretty much every single day, at least every weekday, we have a best of 5 in the Heart of the Swarm, and the winner of said best of 5 advances to the Winter Championship event in Dallas, Texas. Of course, all expenses paid on March 15th. Currently, we're watching a best of 5 between Curious and MVP. My name is axeltoss, joined by axslav. And before we get into Game 2, quick shout out to Full Sail University. Of course, they are MLG's official education partner. If you're looking to get into the gaming industry, if you want to get into graphic design, video game creation, designing, all that sort of stuff, really awesome field to work in. Check out fullsail.edu/MLG. They'll have you fill out some information and then send some information right back at you. So be sure to take advantage of that, especially if you're looking to get involved with the gaming industry. That being said, I kind of want to get into Game 2, Mr. Axslav.
I kind of do too. I think we should do it.
Let's do it.
We should do it.
Of course, very important match here. Of course, again, best of 5. Just to remind everyone, winner goes to Dallas. The opportunity to get an all-expenses-paid trip to potentially go to a country you've never been to, or to compete for thousands of dollars. And this is game number 2 between these two gentlemen. The bottom left-hand location, we have the blue Terran player from Team IM, currently up 1-0. Plenty of GSL championships under his belt. He is MVP. His opponent in the top left-hand location is the red Zerg player from Team Startail, currently down 1-0, but also currently in the round of 8 of GSL, very good at the game of STARCRAFT 2. He is Curious.
I felt like Curious had so many great moves that last game, especially with the Mutas and how he controlled him. He was able to do so much damage, even when there were missile turrets, Thors, there were a couple Widow Mines there was Vikings. But yet he always knew exactly how to control the Mutas, so Thors would only ever shoot one Mutas. And it's one thing, people like, oh, people magic boxes for a while, but people magic box right when they go to engage Thors.
Right.
Curious was magic boxing as he was killing SCVs, as he was stutter stepping around to make sure he was keeping up with Vikings. Every single movement he did was always magic box. There was never a single error in his basically technique there. Which is just, it's really cool to see that flawless technique exhibited. It's something that, harkens back to like watching Jadon control Mutas in Brood War almost. Sure. Unfortunately, it was just a little bit too late because he had taken so much damage from that first tank push. Yeah. Next push was just too much for him to stop.
That tank push did a ridiculous amount of damage. Of course, MVP, I think, had around 30 tanks at that point. And that begs the question, I mean, how do you stop MVP from doing that? I think Ohana is a great map for that. You got 3 bases that can be defended relatively easily. We saw MVP put a turret ring pretty much around his main base. And once MVP can get 3 bases, 4 bases, 5 orbital commands, and it's like actually kind of hard to engage those bases, he can get a scary army on the field. And as a Zerg player, you're left wondering, how the heck do I beat this? And I think the trick for Curious is making sure MVP is disrupted at some point in that process, because if you let him get to that point where he has a ridiculous amount of factories producing a ridiculous amount of tanks, it's not going to be a fun game for you.
A little bit of a different opening this game by MVP, not going for that fast expansion, or quite as fast an expansion behind the Reapers. This game going straight for the reactor at factory with a second gas behind it. I think we might see a Hellbat drop off one base.
Hellbat's very, very strong in the Heart of the Swarm. Of course, the map is Star Station, for those of you unfamiliar. This is a map that has been introduced with the Heart of the Swarm beta, so not necessarily a familiar map for these players by any means. We got a natural expansion that's relatively easy to hold, a nice little choke leading up to that, but the third is so expansive. There's a lot of space you have to worry about, which of course would be a little bit better. Actually, it really depends, but, when you're thinking about walling off, it's much more difficult as a Terran or Protoss player to wall that section off. So we'll have to see how that comes into play. But as you said before, MVP sticking on one base for now. There's the starport, bunch of Hellions in production. I think you're right on the Hellbat drop.
There's good news and bad news if you're curious. The good news is if there were Reapers early, he has that speed almost done, so he doesn't have to worry about dealing with those. The bad news is no matter how fast those Zergians run, they're going to be a very limited value against Hellbats. I mean, you can have like 30 Zerglings and 2 Hellbats will just totally toast him without a problem. He's going to be very hard-pressed to stop this drop. I mean, he's got 3 Queens. If he built more Queens, I think he'd be fine, but what Zerg is going to invest into speed to take map control just to make more Queens? It just doesn't go along with the build. The fast lair tech's going to be great once that finishes, but he's got to figure a way to stop this first drop without taking too much damage.
He has to identify it. That's going to be the first step, and as far as scouting is concerned, the only thing he has on his opponent's side of the map is that Overlord just outside of the main base, but now the speedlings are out. Going to be pursuing those lings. If you can take those out, that would be huge, because of course, you know, if Hellions can't do Hellbat drops, but MVP keeping those alive, not taking any damage whatsoever, and now we have the medevac coming forward, and Hellions getting ready to load up.
There's 4 Hellions here. The first Overlord to see this is going to be the one that's basically in Curious's main. He's getting 1 more Queen. He's got a good number of Speedings that can run back quickly, but again, Speedings are not the ideal unit to stop this type of attack. He's going to have to just micro his drones very well.
All right, Ling's just now scouting out that there's no natural, but the Hellbats are being dropped in the main base, trying to follow those drones, killing quite a few already. Curious, again, sending these Lings in, but they're not going to do much at all. 1 Hellbat going down, but also 1 Queen. Another Queen being very brave coming forward, but she's going to die in a matter of seconds, targeting down the medevac even. Curious trying to micro her away, but microing a Queen, that's a pretty good joke, and MVP doing a lot of damage at this point.
He is Curious, has got to take down that medevac first, because that's the one that heals it. The Queens are trying to reach it, but MVP's done a great job of keeping the Hellbats between the Queens and the medevac, so the Queens can't really target the medevac very easy. Again, he goes in for it.
He's going to get it. All right, the Hellbats can't be healed any longer because the medevac is dead, but doing so much damage to these Lings. Finally going to go down. And look at this Hellbats at the natural expansion. That's where all the drones were. Oh my god, so many drones getting devastated there. 24 workers killed at the 8-minute mark, and he's not done. Look at how weak these drones are. MVP relentless with these Hellbats.
Man, these Hellbats are just absolutely devastating here. Curious thought he had the problem solved, then the second round comes in. The 1-2 strike and the knockout hits hard. Curious on a 26 supply versus MVP's 46.
Oh my gosh, 29 Harvesters to 15. Remember, Curious is already down 1-0. He doesn't want to go down 2-0, and the MVP following it up with the Viking to take down the Overlord, rubbing salt in the wound of Curious here. And he's going to be scrambling to make drones for a good amount of time as MVP behind this, putting down that second command center. Overseer going to see it all. But, yeah, Curious and a pretty tough time here.
There is some good news. Right. After you lose all your stuff, losing Overlords doesn't hurt too much because you're not going to be supply blocked.
That's
right? I mean, he lost 2 Overlords, so instead of having 76 supply, he only has 60. But you know what? 60 is enough when you're stuck at 36.
Uh-oh. Zergling's coming forward. They think they can do stuff against Hellbats, but unfortunately they can't. And we're seeing that right here.
So many drones went down as well. I mean, he was like, okay, when the Hellions and Marines drop, the Zerglings will tear into pieces before they can get many attacks off. Oh, wait. These guys are a little tougher. That sparks a GG, and MVP takes a comfortable game number 2.
This is reminding me of it was week 1. I think last was the player who defeated Sulky with pretty much exclusively Hellbats, and then the final game, the deciding game to advance on to the Winter Championship. Curious did not have an answer for those Hellbats. I don't know if it was like a scouting, but he just had speedlings against those things, and that's not what you want to have against such a ferocious unit. MVP showing he knows what to do with these newer units in Heart of the Swarm and executing that plan flawlessly.
He did. Why don't we take a second look at that that roasting damage there?
Zerg players, close your eyes.
Oh, it's just brutal because we can see here, he thinks he's okay. He's finally held off this first Hellbat attack. But what he didn't realize is there's a second wave while he's so busy microing, comes in here. He sees it last second, tries to run the drones, but back in here, there's nowhere for him to run except straight into jaws of waiting Hellbats. So many drones get absolutely roasted there. In fact, let's take a look at some of these guys. 8 kills, 13 kills, and 2 kills. That's in a matter of seconds, 23 drones. And that's not even it.
Done.
More, I mean,
if he had one more shot, he would have killed every drone.
And there would have been
no
4 or 5 drones left. And I mean, 5 drones is not good. As it is, though, I mean, the damage is done. 41 food versus 20. MVP, his second command center is on the way as well. So just absolutely devastating damage there.
We might be on the verge of another 3-0 here at the Winter Season Showdown. MVP showing complete dominance in Heart of the Swarm Beta against Curious. Really wants that all expenses paid trip to Dallas, Texas. Guys, stay tuned. Game 3 coming up.